studio, I should say, is Bridget Phillips, and she's the Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury, but you knew that anyway. Hello to you. Good morning. Thanks for joining us on the programme. Cutting furlough from today, impact on at least 400,000 businesses, you think?
Yeah, it's a double whammy for businesses. So they're seeing the reduction in furlough, but also the support that was there around business rates is being reduced down as well. So we believe that public health measures should go hand in hand with economic support, and that isn't happening here. We've had to delay the timetable around reopening because the government failed to secure our borders. And yet businesses are expected to pay the price for that. So we haven't seen the support put in place for business, even though the government's timetable has had to change around reopening. So many are still operating at way below capacity. You know, say, for example, gyms aren't able to let as many people in, many high street firms, or independent travel companies. You know, I've spoken to one who, is really struggling. There are many. Coach companies can't return to the way that they were doing things. So I think it's only right that if the government puts restrictions in place, it allows businesses to keep on going at this time.
I did put that to the government previously on a number of occasions, and the response is the fact that that's why the scheme is tapered through for another couple of months or so, because they've built that wriggle room in.
It is tapered, but it's tapered on the original timetable that the government had to push back. So because of the, frankly, reckless approach that they've taken on the border, where they left us completely exposed to this new variant, businesses are now expected, however, to stick to the original timetable. I mean, that just seems completely wrong to me. If you're going to push back the timetable around reopening, you should make sure that businesses, given that breathing space, that aren't just expected to sink or swim because the government have shifted the rules around them.
Even one of your own colleagues, Peter Carl, who's a Shadow Schools Minister, he was on the programme yesterday, and he was saying we can't keep paying out furlough forever, and there should be businesses that we are, or sectors that we are particularly targeting, but more generally, it's time to start cutting it.
Absolutely, this should have been targeted. We were calling for months and months for the government to make changes to the furlough scheme, to make it smarter, to make it more targeted. But actually, where you look at the figures in terms of who's currently on furlough, it is in those sectors that are still the most badly affected, that can't operate at capacity. So all those businesses I mentioned in hospitality and leisure. So it just seems completely wrong for the government not to be putting in place that support for good family-run firms who are facing real anxiety and pressure. They've had a terrible year. You know, it would be just a tragedy to see some of them go to the wall completely avoidably.
How would we pay for it?
Well, we will pay for it in the long run if we don't secure the incomes and protection of business.
In the short term? I mean, we already owe 340 billion, I think, is the figures for the pandemic.
It's a relatively modest sum in the grand scale of things for the government to be putting in place that support. But we know that if we see...
Have you costed it out?
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, there are various costings out there around what that would...
That you will go with?
Well, it's both the furlough and the business rates scheme. In Wales, however, they've done things differently. So the Welsh Labour government has kept in place that business rates support for much longer. We think that's a better way of doing things. But if we see good businesses go bust, if we see more people out of work, that comes with a real cost to us as a country. It will cost us more in lost tax revenue. We will see a real impact on businesses. I don't think people expect good businesses to go bust at this point. When it feels like we're starting to emerge from this crisis, it's just short-termist from the government.
That's a North East accent I'm picking up, isn't it?
It is.
So Sunderland is your area.
Yes.
What do you make of Nissan and their new factory?
It's tremendous news. I mean, it's fantastic. The workforce there are incredible, and I know that Nissan have been working really hard with the local council to secure this investment. Electric vehicles are what we need to see more of in the future, so I'm delighted that we're seeing that investment today. But of course, we do need to see more of it. The infrastructure isn't there really in terms of charging points, and we'll need more of these gigafactories in order to compete into the future. And
what about other companies, Vauxhall, Jaguar Land Rover, etc.? Should they also be receiving government money?
I think we need to see an industrial strategy from the government on all of this. You know, we've got a business secretary who's responsible for industrial strategy who said he doesn't even believe in industrial strategy, which is just incredible to me. So I think, there is a role for government in protecting and supporting our leading industries. You know, Nissan have led the way.
Aid.
With government support, whether there are a range of ways you can do that. I mean, the government are looking at how they can do it into the future. We've done it before. You know, back in 2010, Nissan received support to build the first electric vehicle there. We've been a world leader there for some time. So it is a real vote of confidence in the workforce, who are absolutely tremendous, and it's great news.
OK, talk to me about this app that I'm sure you've read about it in the paper this morning. And we've seen a few people, would-be holidaymakers on the telly last night, wanted to go to Malta, They got to the airport and they had their app. They said, there you go, double vaccinated, thank you very much. Which seat am I sitting in? And they said, no, sorry, you can't. We need it as paper form, and that's going to take 5 days to get. What on earth is going on?
I don't know what's going on. I mean, these are questions that have been asked of the government for some time, and it strikes me as a bit illogical that we haven't got to a position where there is much greater clarity on all of this. I mean, fundamentally, the problem that we've got right now is that in failing to secure the border, which you would think the government would be able to do given that we're an island, we've been exposed to this new variant, and therefore it's likely that other countries will put in place additional restrictions around travel because of the government's just negligent approach in all of this.
So what's Labour's advice to people if they're wanting to go on holiday to one of the green list countries?
Well, I think it's completely understandable that people want to go on holiday. You know, people have had it's been a really tough year. I think particularly for those with family abroad, they haven't been able to see them. Of course, we understand that they want to travel, but I think we need to see kind of greater clarity from the government around what is expected of people and just some understanding as to what needs to be put in place. There's been kind of chaos around the government's approach on the border, and I think that's left people really wondering what to do for the best.
Good to talk to you. Thanks for joining us on the programme. Thank you. Still to come on the programme for you. Don't forget that you can actually watch our interview on Catch Up or any of the interviews that we are covering on the programme for you today. All you need to go to is skynews.com. You can go to our live blog to watch the programme. You can watch us on Twitter as well, pinned to the top of at Sky News Twitter, or if you prefer, at Burley. The Bangladeshi capital of Dhaka is said to be crumbling. Officials there are warning it could become a security problem for the whole world.